adopting social media within an organisation is always a challenge, and it is for us at Sequence. You know, we're a digital agency. We employ typically younger people who tend to have smartphones, tend to have unrestricted web access, and live and breathe this stuff. You know, they arrange their Friday nights out on Facebook. So I think in an organisation where you perhaps don't have the same demographic, and where perhaps you don't have the same penetration to technology, obviously these channels are not going to be as prolific as they are within our agency. However, we have found it's kind of opened up a whole new audience to us. You get people who are vocal in meetings and will stand up and say, I think this is wrong, we need to do this. We are now getting feedback on how we perform, how we appraise people, how they agree with our strategy or not through social media channels. It kind of gives perhaps people a voice which they wouldn't have previously had. So we haven't neglected the traditional channels, but we are trying to push our message across multiple channels to get that better reach.
As PR guys, we're all about content. We're all about delivering propositions. We're all about creating a proposition and delivering that effectively to the marketplace. Social media becomes another platform for that. Yes, the way in which we do that and the tone and the style and so forth changes. I don't think everybody's got that. I think there are still a lot of people who are trying to push press releases out through Twitter or are trying to put a sales proposition into a LinkedIn group. I think that much more direct communication isn't the way to go about it. It has to be part of a conversation. It has to be part of a broader community debate or a group debate. And there is a skill involved in that. And I think those skills are not necessarily something that comes natural to a marketeer who's trying to support a very direct sales environment. So those skills need to be learned. I think, but from a PR perspective, it's a channel, it needs content, it needs propositions, it needs a story. And that's what we do every day. So I'm pretty excited by it. I think that as a PR community, we are best placed. I think it's much more suitable to us than it is to direct marketing organizations or to advertising organizations.
One of the examples that really stuck with me was of Gap. And they actually went out and they said, what do you think of our new logo on Twitter? They said, hi guys, you know, we've got a new logo, what do you think? And everyone kind of came back to them and said, hate it, it's awful. And so they obviously weren't kind of expecting that reaction. They were thinking, you know, it's going to go viral, it's going to be great, and it all went wrong. So then they said, well, can you do better? Can you design us a logo that you do like? And everybody kind of said, well, hang on, aren't you paying someone £1 million to do this? How dare you, sort of thing. So in the end, they kind of, again, took on that information. They said, okay, we'll keep it. We won't change the logo. We're going to keep things the same. So I think that's a really good example of people using social media, not just in this kind of the way of just putting a message out there, but a sort of two-way street of giving information, but also listening to your customers or listening to your kind of stakeholders and actually taking stuff on board and building a relationship with them rather than just you being an outlet. You're actually more of a community, and it is more of a two-way street.
I think the challenge for leadership in terms of using social media channels has to be quite a brave move initially. I think it takes quite a lot of faith to jump into these channels where you've got immediate international penetration of anything you say. I think that kind of means that the processes need to change. You can't have necessarily reams of sign-off and stakeholders and committee deciding on every single tweet. So the change has to be to allow some delegation of trust out to individuals within those organisations. I'm not saying that they can't still have to fit into guidelines and, you know, tone of voice information and how to write, but I think it has to have a degree of letting go from senior people to designated people to make use of that channel. Otherwise, effectively, you're just going to be pushing press releases on Twitter, which is not what that channel's about, and you're missing the point, really.
From knowing what's said about you on the internet and in terms of embracing and exploiting the social network scene, there's two things I probably recommend to a business that they do. Is first of all set up Google alerts. So anytime there's a mention of your company, a product or whatever, you get a notification by email. But also do that, not just with Google, do it on a website such as socialmention.com, which also does the same thing, but it trolls through social networking sites. So that's one of the first steps, is knowing what's about you how you're perceived in the social networking world. You might find there's nothing about you there, but you might find actually there's some negative comments and you need to address. That would be a first starting point. In addition, allied to that, you need to appoint someone, individual or individuals, who do have the skills and knowledge and understand how to use this stuff, so that they can start looking in ways how to engage it, but making sure that they're trained on what the company line, what the company take is on certain issues, and that could involve a lot of people. But simply opening up social networking to all the employees is a recipe for disaster, because all you need is one employee just to say the wrong thing, even if they have good intentions, and that's it. Disaster can strike. So those would be the kind of the first few things I would probably look at.